शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं वादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिनि व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So we were doing yesterday the verse number 33rd. We had done that. That the Shastrakara is advising when a person he's clear about it, he understands, and others, he himself, his experience itself is the best, fulfilling criteria, that he has the sadhana chatushtaya sampannata. He has the four basic qualities: viveka, vairagya, samadhi, satka sampatti, and mumuksha. And then the Shastrakara also emphasizes among all these qualities, two qualities are critical. One is vairagya, the other one is mumukshitvam. So one is about detachment from this whole experience of life at a material, emotional, social plane. And then when we disconnect, that would be meaningless if it isn't actually supplemented by, if it isn't backed by a strong desire for liberation, strong desire for enlightenment. Because leaving something is not so fruitful unless it is replaced with a positive plan of action, a positive aspiration. Somebody has some vision as to where he wants to go, what he wants to do. That is the desire for liberation. And these four qualities, all these qualities that we were discussing yesterday, self-denial, discipline, detachment, vivek, and discrimination, these are useful even in social lives and professional lives. And these need to be cultivated. These are basic things, so that you are not a tamasika person, you're not a rajasika person, or you have a sense of samatva. So if these qualities are properly cultivated, one good thing happens, that the sadhaka, the aspirant, at least qualifies as a karma yogi. Then the next stage comes when he has to sort of keep doing things without remaining attached to his motivations for whatever you're doing. He starts taking this Atma Suddha, Yoginaha Karma Kurvanti, Atma Suddha, they do it for self purification. Now, once you start doing that, then the transformation is much quicker. You realize the fruitlessness of many things. You want to be clutter free, you want to be simpler, straightforward, your needs become limited. And then gradually, maybe you have children, so you hand over the responsibilities and the finances and everything. And you learn how to find more time for yourself. And then you graduate to the next stage. It doesn't happen generally when you have actual needs in life. It happens when and it doesn't happen in a situation of distress. I mean, there are always two factors which are responsible for kind of a change in our lives, some push factors and some pull factors. The vairagya is the push factor. You don't like this place because of whatever, you're feeling detachment. And you're not interested in happiness here, you're not interested in even Swargaloka happiness. You don't have desire for doing pujas and this and that. You lose interest because you think you have a very strong nitya vastu viveka. What is permanent, what is not, what is eternal. Let me go for something which is long term, which actually is transforming in nature. So when that kind of a concentration is higher, this person who is an excellent karma yogi by practicing these values, he continues to practice these values but for a higher purpose, for enlightenment. He now starts asking questions about whatever he's doing. So first there was a technical change in his personality. He was a sattvika person. He had reasonable amount of rajasikaness in him. He had, cleansed his antakarana. Now he's positively aspiring for a higher experience of this whole process of knowing, the experience of being here, and taking this experience to a level where we feel liberated. And that feeling of liberation doesn't come, as Shastras say, and is verified from my experiences, from any acquisition of any material possessions or any human associations, or going through any particular experiential attachments, like you drink something, or you take some food, or you go to a holiday. These are all sensory experiences. They are not transformative. But if you experience the higher truth through meditation and through, then that is much more attractive. But it doesn't happen all on a sudden. One has to sort of go layer by layer, as Bhagavad Gita explained. Once that happens, you said you go to a guru. And then when you go to the guru, he is Tattva Jigyasu Atmanaha Ukta Sadhana Sampannaha, the person who is having this qualification. Upasidet Gurum Pragyam, somebody who is really wise, not somebody who has read the books, but he has done Sakshatkara. He's a self realized person. It's very honestly speaking, in the whole tradition of Vedanta, whenever you are talking to anyone like you are doing the satsang, it's not that you actually manage to meet a completely self-realized person, because this is a process. But then you want to start, I mean, you may not find the best course on earth to start playing a violin. So you learn it from whosoever knows how to play it. Then, of course, one day you might meet somebody who is just exceptionally good to tell you. Same thing in Vyavahara, that's what I'm saying. However, the Shastra is talking about, that Mokshadai experience. And it was written at a time where apparently there were still those citadel's of studies, of meditation. Our cultures are changing. Lives are becoming much more complex. It's even not easy to find 20 people or 5 people who would like to have a collective meditation with you on a weekend. Very difficult. You can have a tea party or high tea or snacks, stuff like that. That people would come, but you say that we want to do a prayer. You want to do a Hanuman Chalisa, people might come. You want to study Upanishads, you want to meditate together. I don't think anybody will be interested. This is not a cup of tea, because times are changing. So it becomes more and more difficult, becomes very challenging. So Upasidet Gurum Pragyam Yasmad Bandha Vimokshanam. And therefore you can break your barriers and you can take that quantum leap into an experience of enlightenment which liberates you from your sense of limited life, that you have that sense of limitations and restrictions that we experience in everyday life. We want to break free and experience the unlimited. That process ensures when we actually go to somebody who knows the truth, who can give us some guidance. Not easy to find a completely self-realized person, but it is a process, and you can pick and choose. Uh, so whosoever is available, you can connect and you can learn. Now, Tadrusam Gurum Lakshayati, Tikakara is saying, is further elaborating what this Guru is about in the Vedanta tradition, what that Guru is like, he's explaining it. Shrotriyo Brujino Kamohato Yo Brahma Vittamaha Brahmanyo Paratah Shanto Nirindhana Iva Nalaha. Shrotriya, that's the first important thing. Now, Sostriya means Adhita Chandaha. Adhita Chanda means the Sanhitas, the Vedas he has read. He has some Shastra Jnana. Now, one of the problems in modern day spirituality is that we often are enamored by people who speak well, and there are people who are exceptionally good in terms of articulation. They have different levels of wisdom and self realization. It's not that they're all speaking in the air. But the parampara always emphasizes that these kinds of things are also important. You can entertain yourself, like you're watching a film, you're watching a stand-up comedy show, and you're watching a talk show. You can also watch a spiritual talk, entertain yourself. You can have, but he's saying, whatever he's saying, is it actually based on texts? Because in our tradition, in the Vedanta tradition, what is most important? Shruti Bhagavati, we should go close. She's like a mother, these Upanishads. So, is he somebody who has entered into it? Does he have a fundamental understanding of all this? Otherwise, he would sort of say things which will not necessarily remove our confusions. I mean, he's talking about a serious student. Shrotriya. And the next one, what if he's still married, or he has children, or he has a conflict with the company, or this and that? He must have broken free from all this. Abrijino. He's somebody who is Papa Rahita. He's not a sinner. In the sense, he's not somebody who is kind of himself subjected to a lot of klesas. Somebody who is getting drowned cannot, you know, liberate another person from getting drowned, cannot save another person. He doesn't know swimming himself. So he is Papa Rahita. He doesn't have the limitations and weaknesses which people in samsara have. He's not like one of them. And then third, Akamahataha. This is a beautiful word. This is picked up from Upanishads. Akamahata, what does it mean? Who is Kamahata? What is Kama? Desire. Kamahataha. Kamenahataha. Somebody who is killed by his own desires, defeated by his desires. Somebody who has been subdued, maimed, smothered under his load of desires. Kamahataha. But remember, the Vedanti Acharya that the student is going to is Akamahataha. He doesn't have desires. He has taken full sannyasa. He's a Tattvadarshi, Jnaninaha Tattvadarshinaha. He not only has Paroksha Jnana, but he has also done Sakshatkara. He has ascended to a higher plane. What appears very difficult to the student is very easy for him, and extremely easy for him. So Abhijina Akamahataha Yo Brahmavittamaha. Brahmavit. He knows about the Brahman. He's read a lot of Brahmavittamaha is the most realized. So he's sort of mentioning things like he's praising the Guru. In our tradition, this Guru Puja, Guru Purnima is coming. So we do that, Guru Parampara Puja, which is called Vyasa Puja. Brahmani Uparataha. Now you can detach yourself from samsara. A lot of people get detached from samsara because they have a drug problem, they have an addiction problem. No, it's not that kind of uparati. He's disconnected and is connected and established, is devoted. His resolution of his consciousness is in the Brahman and the Atma Tattva. That sort of a person who is spiritually, he's kind of realigned his consciousness. There are no dualities in his consciousness or her consciousness. She or he has kind of realigned the inner world. In the light of the truth he has read about, he has thought about, he has realized. He's not a superficial, like the professor also takes classes and he teaches. And then he can do anything he wants. He can go play, he can go to a nightclub, he can do anything. And nobody will feel bad about it unless there are ethical issues. But the Guru here is not going to do any of this. He lives what he teaches. He has to. And if there are gaps, the student just may be nice to him, but the student shall know. And that will be, end of the day, just a good human relationship. So that element of honesty, that element of transparency and purity has to be there. So he's Akamahataha, Brahmavittamaha, Brahmani Uparataha. And then normal, he's Shantaha. Obviously, his mind is not restless. He's Shantaha. The Samadhamadi Sakta Sampati just mentioned that when Vairagya and Mumukshu is very powerful, very Tibra, and Samadhamadi Sampati, which will just appear as if they are real in case of a Manda Tyagi, a Manda Vairagi, very normal kind of a person who practices some detachment. There are excellent professionals who are like monks, isn't it? They're very quiet, they don't get angry. I have met quite a few of them. I mean, I have been very lucky to meet quite a few of them. Very spiritual people. But then they have their motivation, they have their desire for success, and they work hard and they are very competitive when it comes to holding on to that place, and they have that killer instinct, okay? But they have a lot of good qualities, and they're definitely layers ahead of, layers above the normal self-conflicted professional. They're much better. They're warm, they have some charity to do, much wonderful human beings. However, what he's saying is he's also Shantaha. His mind is also quiet. And he's Brahmani Uparataha. That is a very fundamental thing. And then he's saying, why he doesn't, he's why he's Akamahataha. What is that Guru like? So there is a fireplace, you have a bonfire. So you put some wood and all and dry leaves and you set fire to it. It's very dangerous. It can threaten the forest cover. It happens. People go on a picnic, they go to a resort, they smoke cigarettes, throw it and come back. It's summer. There are dry leaves and suddenly the forest goes. You have forest fires. Many countries are getting affected. Rainforests are in under threat. So here he is saying that nirindhana iva analaha. So when there is fire, but the wood isn't there, how long would the fire last? Suddenly the fire becomes just, you just see there is fire, but there is no flame anymore. There'll be some fire covered with smoke. If you put again some wood on it, some butter on it, or some oil on it, of this strong wind again, the fire may again reappear. Otherwise, it would be there, smothered under a layer of dust and ash. It slowly gets extinguished. It takes time. It can last several hours. If you put water, that is fine. Otherwise, it's going to be there several hours, doesn't hurt anyone. It quietly remains there and slowly dies. Now, this guru's state of consciousness is like that fire because there is no indhana, nirindhana, that which motivates a person to be restless, to get entangled in samsara. Those inputs or factors are absent in case of a guru because he has worked on them. He's not allowing entry of these thoughts and distractions to be guests at his home and then trouble him at night. No, he doesn't permit it. He has gone beyond that. These thoughts and distractions don't visit him anymore. So there is no inputs, no material which can be burned. So the desire cannot do much. So beautiful, simile is giving nirindhana ivanalaha. It's like fire without any woods. Then, what kind of a person he is and how do you go? How does the student go? In our tradition, this whole relationship between the guru and a shishya, a student and a teacher, is very sacred. Even husband-wife relationship is very sacred. Everything is a sacrament. Like when in Catholic marriage, they don't have divorce because they think it's a sacrament. And now, of course, they have pulled it to the extreme by banning abortion in America a few hours back. Now, there are different understandings. Even in our tradition, Hindu tradition, abortion is actually a heinous crime as per the spiritual literature. But you have to look at the freedom of choice of the woman. And I personally think she should have the choice. If she wants to terminate it, she's sexually violated, she's pregnant, she's not well, she's pregnant, it threatens her life. I mean, obviously, you have to take a pragmatic decision. Okay. Now, what I'm coming here is that in our tradition, the sishya, the student, goes to the acharya with a certain attitude. And now he's discussing that part of the attitude in the next two verses. This last half of this verse is Ahetukadaya Sindhur Bandhuranamatam Satam. Ahetukadaya Sindhur. Now, a lot of people, there was this word in Bhagavad Gita we had studied called Srihrid. Who is a Suhrid? Suhrid is a person who will benefit you or help you without any anticipation of a return favor. So just imagine that you are in a problem, your car isn't working, and you're just standing outside your car, it's not working. And then, of course, a lot of gentlemen help you, but somebody sees you there, it's chilly night, he stops. What happened to you? I have a problem and I'm doing this. Where you're going? No, I was going to the airport, so I'm trying to order a cab. Those days, let's imagine there were no Ola, no Uber, no Gozo cab. So what do? That fellow volunteers to take all your luggage and all, and he's ready to drop you in the airport. He was going somewhere else, and you say, "But how much? How can I help you?" He said, "Oh, don't worry about it. You want to go to the airport?" He drops you at the airport. You're able to catch your flight, and then he sort of arranges. You talk to somebody who comes and picks up your car and takes it for repair, whatever. You never meet him again in life. He's Suhridya. He does it because he has that ethical attitude. Now, the guru, the acharya, who has left everything, the meaning of his life is actually fulfilled if he is able to help others. Sarva bhuta hite rataha. His very life is just for, it's full of compassion. And Buddhism, that loving kindness they practice. Same with Vedanta. You're supposed to be somebody whose life is an act of kindness, very living. Is supposed to help others, to benefit others. Therefore, he says, Ahetuka daya sindhuhu bandhurana matam satam. And anybody, so he goes there with a bent head and he always helps. He's a bandhu, he's a friend. Whosoever comes to him for help, he sort of, you know, ventures out of his privacy and his state of comfort to help you. You're in distress, he's ready to listen to you. That kind of, so you are going there. Now, in the next two verses, he is advising some kind of attitudinal tips for the student who is going to an ashram to join some camp or to learn from a traditional Vedanta acharya. So he's addressing, I mean, actually, even now, you go to any of the Vedanta acharyas, whether it is Uttarkashi or Rishikesh or Banaras, Kasi, they all teach free of cost. And they're just looking for, even if there are 2, 3 students who are sincere, they teach. And they don't mind because they're doing it because there is a rina on them, because for them it's a debt. They have studied from somebody. So if you want to go to Gomukh, I just went recently. So there is a trolley across the Ganges, and there is no mechanical operative system over there. A forest department has just put it. It's a hand pulled trolley. So you sit on the trolley this side, 4 people. There must be people on the other side to pull that trolley. Then only you can cover this whole distance of roughly about 200 meters. So you'd go to the other side. Maybe it's about 150 meters or so. And so you'd go to the other side. And generally, there's a moral responsibility that when you have crossed over, there you go on pulling it for the next 2 batches because they are going to go to Gomukh. And similarly, when you come back, other people would be coming, so they just voluntarily help. There's no one to help anyone. But interestingly, the system runs. Why should anybody? And I have seen a lot of people, they work very hard to pull the trolley. They don't have 1 rupee. They don't expect any money from you. For them, it's just a matter of faith. And they have a sense of satisfaction. They don't even think that they have exerted themselves, their work, they have labored for you. No, they don't have these thoughts. Similarly, this guru is ready to help you. But what should be your attitude? You should have a sense of gratefulness, a sense of humility. These are discussed in the next 2 verses. Tamaradhya gurum bhaktya pravah prasrayase vanehi prasannam tam anuprapya priched jnatavyam. You're going to ask about jnana, about atma, very difficult thing. So a lot of these Vedanta teachers, what they say is that the moment you go say, have you studied grammar? Do you know Sanskrit? You want to learn it in Sanskrit or English? And how long you want to study? What do you want to study? They will ask a few questions. And depending on that, they will engage with you. So if you want to learn grammar, they'll say, okay, why don't you go to him to learn grammar? Or you first do the grammar. No, I want to study Upanishads. No, not now. And they just push you out of the class. They will just say, no, no, actually, you will not understand. It's not for you right now. You need not feel bad at all. Because what they are saying is a very sincere advice. So what he's saying is, tam aradhya, you should be respectful, aradhana purvaka gurum, bhaktya, with a sense of devotion, because the guru is not an individual in Vedanta. He's just in a long chain. It's like a rally race. It's just one person. It's a long chain of acharyas who are carrying that whole tradition through their practice. So bhaktya pravaha. And then you have this devotion, humility. You treat him as a Prabhu, as a master, give him that respect. And prastraya, you speak with a lot of courtesy, humility, you are very sober, sevanehi, and then offer a bit of help in his everyday life because he's not a rich guy, he's mostly living on bhiksha. He would be living on alms. Many of these acharyas don't earn anything. They live miserable lives materially. Very simple lives mostly. Prasannam tan anuprapya, and then he slowly is happy with you. He's prasanna because of your attitude. Pruched jnatavyam atmanah. Then you want to know about Atma, right? Jnatavya Vishaya regarding Atma. Then you ask him. So first you set the context for it. You must look acceptable. That's true for any of us looking for a job, and be if you want to be an intern with anyone, of course you have to learn to do all these things. So, but our cultural context is just mentioning it, but these days it's much more liberal than what is mentioned here. And then in the next verse, in the verse number 37, he further sort of elaborates and beautifully explains how this is kind of doing what is called abhinaya. He's just acting out how the student is supposed to behave. It's not that everybody has to do that. It's not mandatory. But this verse, and there is a lot of commentary on what it means, I'm not getting into the details. This thing, in a way, presents our tradition where there was also give and take, but this give and take is not guided by cold calculations, but guided by some ethical orientation, guided by a kind of connectivity with your own parampara, your tradition. So by doing this, you're doing two things. One is that you are trying to please him. That is a calculative aspect of looking at it. But you are participating in a learning tradition. So you also experience and learn a sense of belongingness. I'll tell you a very funny experience. So when I first came to Rishikesh, so I found everybody is buying flower garlands and stuff like that a day before Guru Purnima. And then I was actually studying Tarkasastra with a guy from Kerala, very nice guy who's 10, 15 years younger to me, 10 years younger to me. So, and then you have to visit them, just go and carry some small things, whatever. But just visit and say thank you on that. And this is a big celebration in all the Vedanta ashrams here, not other ashrams. So Vedanta ashram is very important. So they celebrate this Guru Purnima, where they will come together. They will have a small meeting. They will all bow down to the Guru. There is a Vyasa Puja where all the saints and sages and scholars of your tradition, their names are mentioned. Everybody, like Vasishta, Kapila, Vyasa, all their names are mentioned. All the great scholars, and they're individually worshipped. You pay tribute to them. You pray for their blessings. And end of the day, then the acharya of your ashram or anything will be sitting to bless you. And then there is a bhandara. Somebody sponsors a lunch where everybody go and participate in it. But I was funnily amused because we did have the Teachers' Day on September 5, the birthday of the second president of India, where, of course, we said thanks to our teachers when we were children. And we did collect funds for what is called the pension fund for poor teachers. We used to do that as children. But nothing of that sort happened in the universities. We never went to the professor to say thank you because it was Teachers' Day. Nothing happened. Schools, yes, not in colleges or universities. But for me, it was a completely different experience that people are celebrating it. Remember, you're connecting in this tradition because tomorrow, as you go forward in Vedanta, in whatever capacity, wherever you are, you're just connecting yourself with a long chain of a learning tradition. So you tomorrow also be a teacher, and you will have to teach it to somebody. Otherwise, you have that load of rina on you that they say. So therefore, everybody was happy, and it was like every day is happy, experiencing or celebrating his birthday. And I was pleasantly surprised and very amused. And then I enjoyed this. He said, "Did you go to the acharya? I mean, this is the day you get your blessings and all." Even though, it's all vyavaharik, and yet, and the teacher himself, he also praised his own guru, and he also bows down to his own teacher. So everybody is bowing down to their own acharyas, in a way bowing down to the whole tradition of learning, which has survived thousands of years, despite traumas and vicissitudes, ups and downs in history and in politics and economics. We had famines, we had floods, we have cyclones, and we had, a lot of people came and conquered, but the tradition has survived in whatever form. Of course, that great things could have happened. Maybe it has been a decline, but this whole process of learning still continues. And therefore, he is just giving a glimpse of what it was like maybe in ancient days in these verses. You know what he says? Swamin namaste nataloka bandho karunya sindho patitam bhavabdho मामुद्धरात्मीय कटाक्ष दृष्ट्या रुज्वाति कारुण्य सुधाभिवृष्ट्या. Very poetic, and that's one of the reasons a lot of people believe that Vivek Chudamani perhaps wasn't written by original Sankaracharya, who wasn't heavily poetic, was heavily philosophical. But here there's a lot of poetry. Swamin Namaste, hey Swamin, I bow down to you. The student goes and says Namaste. Nataloka Bandho, you are a friend of people who are deprived, who are put down, who are helpless, who are humble, who are vinamra. They have come to you for help. You are always a friend of people who come to you for help. Nataloka Bandho. Karunya Sindho, and you're full of kindness and compassion. You absolutely are not bothered. Your life is an act of love. Patitam Bhavabdho. Do you know what's my condition, oh sir? Bhavabdho aham patitam. इस संसार सागर में मैं डूब रहा हूँ. अहम पतितम. माम उद्धर. हे प्रभु, please, rescue me. I'm getting drowned in this sansara sindhu bhavabdhi. Mam uddhara. How? How does the Guru rescue the student? What he does? He's saying something beautiful. Atmiya kataksha drishtya. A very compassionate, intimate glance. One look of yours will liberate me. There was this French author, I think Arthur Osborne or someone, or maybe I'm not correctly telling you the name, you can find out, who came and lived a few years in Tiruvannamalai, Arunachaleshwar. And he writes that when he went to meet Ramana Maharshi, he looked at him intensely for a few seconds and he didn't know where to go. He was like a rabbit who is in front of a car's headlights and he can't run away. He's in a state of trance. And he had an immediate revelation that he needs to find out about himself. And he felt that I got transformed by that very intense look. A lot of people, like for example, used to go to Ramakrishna, and he never talked to a lot of people, and yet there was an element of compassion in his eyes. Look at Buddha, that smile. I have seen a lot of deities and all, but if you go to Saranath, there is this small Buddha statue. He's smiling. If you go and stand before it, believe me, you will feel hypnotized. Because that love and compassion is second to none. That beautiful image of Buddha, smiling Buddha, compassionate Buddha, he'll just capture you, that smile, that look. So he's saying that Atmiya Kataksha Drishtya, and then how does he take you out of your samsara? He's saying Rajwa. Like we in disaster management, search and rescue operations, they throw their different props they use, like they will throw a rope at you, hold on to it. They have these rubber dinghies and stuff like that. They go and they try to rescue people. They are trained in that business. Rajwa ati karunya sudhavi vrishtya. So you please shower on me the nectar of the knowledge about the self and of the rain of your love and blessings and your compassion. I need your grace, that Guru's grace we talk about. I need you. Of course, different people have different understanding about who is the Guru. Like Krishnamurti says, the Guru cannot rescue you. A Guru can do one thing. He'll tell you where you are. He doesn't even know where is the gate. You are in a dark room. He'll keep talking to you, but you have to find the way out. He can tell you that, look, this room is dark. You have to find your way. Have patience. He'll encourage you. But I think that also is kind of a rescue act, isn't it? Buddha also says the same thing. I'm giving you the pass. If you Follow this path, you shall get liberated. Can I liberate you? No. I'll come to help you. I can tell you the truth. I can tell you how to move forward. But here, the sense of grace is stronger in our tradition, and especially in the tantric traditions and the in the Saiva traditions and the Kashmiri Saivism tradition. They have a concept of Saktipada, where the guru sort of puts his hand, and there are certain rituals. The same also in Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, the Tibetan Buddhism. They have a lot of rituals where the initiation and stuff like that. A few occult stuff is a bit of occult stuff is also there. But in the Jnana tradition, this compassion or anything is nothing to do with occult. It is the power of purity and understanding and a life of non duality, free from conflict and contradiction that the Guru lives, with the power of that truth and experience of the Absolute, of the secret of life, that Brahman. He compassionately tells you about the Upanishads, but the very transparency of his life, dedication to the Shastra and stuff like that that he lives, he transforms you through his grace and his compassion. It works because he has sacrificed everything to be there. If you go, it also comes to you. That is how they're explaining it. I hope this one is done. The Swami Namaste Nataloka Bandho Karunya Sindho Patitam Bhavabdho Mam Uddhara. Please rescue me. Atmiya Kataksha Drishtya. So there are two ways. You have to have that look of grace. Okay. And then Rajwa Atikarunya Sudhavi Drishtya. So you also shower your grace on me, and you sort of take me out of this dungeon of life, the conundrum where I'm just caught up and I do not know what to do. I'm completely confused. I'm helpless. So he's mentioning that. And what is this bhabavdhi, jara marana? There are several things that we have studied in Bhagavad Gita. Lack of understanding, then doing things without a sense of direction, and doing with a sense of craving, with an anxiety for the results. Even if you get you want, it creates only more craving. And then we continue. During this life, we have some experience of possessions, some sense of power, but there is a sense of gap. There's some sort of a vacuum. We cannot fill it up. Many of us don't even look within. But once we look within, we want to know what it is, then it poses itself as a problem. But depending where we are and what is our political outlook, for example, a leftist intellectual, for him it's all bourgeois nonsense. He'll not even get into it. He's happy where he is. Maybe somebody's an environmental activist, or he's a rights activist, or he's a social activist, and he derives meaning out of it. This Vivek Chudamani or the Bhagavad Gita, the spirituality is not in conflict with that, except that it says that you can follow all that you are doing without raga dvesha. The moment you are a right activist, you actually excel in raga dvesha. You hate people, you shout at people, you are fighting for a cause. So in that whole process, even if I do not know what you're fighting for, spiritually you're big zero. I mean, even if you might succeed, your personal life will not be at all with any peace. And we have seen that. They are great political activists, but they have miserable personal lives. They're very unhappy people. They may be great successes politically or socially or ideologically. They may be great orators. Personal life is hell because they do not even know what it is. So what these Vedantic principles and this advice is offering us is, how do we cultivate a certain attitude where we can be in our profession and yet we are purifying ourselves. You can be in the social domain, you can be in the cultural domain or environmental domain, but you are not missing out on the big picture. Remember, even though we are talking about politics or economics or anything, that doesn't deny the truth about, let's say, the cosmology, isn't it? The black holes and laws of physics at the higher level. So when you are aligned with it, you have a sense of moderation, you have a sense of proportion. So you have that lightness. And you are doing everything, yet you have at the same time a sense of detachment. You cultivate that. You have that light of that coolness about whatever you're doing, and you are not irritated. You are not getting stuck with things, which means less of depression, less of anxiety, less of restlessness. So overall, the whole experience of life becomes better, mellifluous, spontaneous. And then you also emanate loving energy, positive energy, which, if you are one of the most vociferous political or social activists, even though you may be apparently helping the cause, you may be actually emitting very negative or stressful rajasic energy. So the Vedanta is all about sort of having a right attitude. If you don't have to be a sannyasi wherever you are, you can be. But once you have this new attitude of staying, having that holding the cricket bat with an element of looseness, so you are not catcher. You're not going for a catch because the bat sort of kisses the ball. It doesn't hit the ball all the time. So we have to sort of look at life with a sense of proportion, where we are not unnecessarily intensifying the stress we are already facing in our life because of external factors for which you are not responsible. So this is what he's mentioning. Now, next, in the next, he's sort of explaining about his own miserable condition because he's a Tibra Vairagi, the student. He's left everything and he has come. And I once read a blog of an American woman who was apparently having a corporate job, and she somehow got into this Kali business. She went to some Vedanta society and then interacted with Indians and then learned about who is Kali. She had a couple of Bengali friends. She read about their tradition, this and that, and then her life was fine. But suddenly she started aspiring. Can I be a different person? Why am I caught up with all that? This is completely meaningless. And then she writes that I genuinely wished one day, why can't I be completely spiritual? Because all this house, car, everything I have, relationship is a botheration. Because all that I'm reading is not going to fructify or anything. Then she writes exactly in 1 year, her friend, the boyfriend with whom she was living, kind of, there was a breakup. And then there was something after some time. There was some loss in her business. She was running some business, and then she sold everything and whatever money she had, and she landed up in India. And she said that then I got into this, and then she went back to America, and but she went back not as a business person, but somebody who is spiritual, who is having something else to do. So she maybe was running some charity or some organization over there. And saying, I mean, somebody was asking her, "What has Kali done to you?" And she's saying that, okay, I just met her in a book, and then she changed my life, and she just got into my life accidentally. I don't know, coincidence, I don't know, but it just happened. It started off with curiosity, got strengthened with an aspiration, then the process of change happened like magic. And within 5, 10 years, she was a completely different person. Many of the stories that we see of transformation are very magical. Most of them are very magical. So he's now this Tibra Vairagi with very strong sense of detachment. How does he talk to the teacher? He is narrating his difficulties as a sadhaka, as an aspirant who wants to reach that destination. What does he say? He's saying this. Durvara sansara davagni taptam dodhuyamanam duradrustavate भीतं प्रपन्नं परिपाहि मृत्योः शरण्यमन्यं यदहं न जाने. He says, "Oh Lord, I don't know anything other than saranam anyam. I just know that I need to surrender to you. I have heard you are very compassionate, you can help, but right now I'm just coming." He says, "Okay, come." There is this book, if you find, I love that book about this Radha Nath Swami. He has written a book called The Journey Home. Um, he's a Vaishnava, but he's a loving character. He runs free kitchen for a lot of students and helps them with students. He came to India at 19 or something. He writes that story in that book called The Journey Home, and he writes how he went to many gurus and many occultists and many tantrics he met when he was in Rishikesh and in Gangotri and other places, and then how he was living on carrots, and a very difficult life he was living. And he just used to be present with 1 or 2 carrots by a shopkeeper, vegetable vendor, and used to meditate in the Ganges for hours every day. And then one fine morning, he heard a mantra coming from Ganges. He didn't know the meaning of it, but later on, he read it in a book, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So he first got connected with this. He said, then he started looking for a guru, and he said that I had met this Prabhupada a couple of times. And then in Bombay, he was giving a speech, and he goes to him. And he says, would you accept me as your disciple? He had met Prabhupada twice, but he had not gone close to him as a disciple. At this time, he goes to him and he says, would you accept me as a disciple? He has been in India already for 4 or 5 years. And Prabhupada doesn't say anything. He just looks at him and says, come. That's all he says. And that is the seal of approval. And that is how his life changed. It's not that he had done a lot of sadhana before that, but that magical interaction between Prabhupada and him is beautifully captured in that book. And if you read it, you might experience tears well up in your eyes because of the very personal way he has been able to narrate that story. It's a beautifully written book. So he said, Durvara Sansara Davagni Taptam. Now, this Sansara is like a forest fire. You don't know, things are burning. And in this forest fire of this Sansara, of this world, I'm already heated up. I might just burn down to ash. I'm encircled by fire. Look at the bad situation he is in, the student. Dodhuya manam duradrishtavatehi. And duradrishta, you know what it is? Something which is from very long distance, and that wind, it's coming, and what does the wind do to the fire? It raises the flames. And this particular thing, why this word duradrishta? He's saying the papas I have done long back. I have changed. Now I'm spiritual. But what about what I had done when I was a young man? Maybe I had fought with another guy in a football field. Maybe I had got angry with my mom when I was a teenager. I had shouted at her, even though she loved me. So a lot of papas I have done. And these papas are contributing that pain of my life. Because I've studied Bhagavad Gita, says Papa Punya will come working the prarabdha, and your karma comes back to me. It seems that I'm suffering because these old papas. I know I have done them, but I have changed completely, my Lord. But they come and they egg on. These factors were working against me. The forest fire, the bonfire, saying, Dodhu Yamana, I'm trembling in fear. I'm anxious. I'm helpless. Vitam prapannam. And I'm completely afraid, oh Lord. I do not know any other thing I can do right now other than surrendering to you. You're my last destination, last hope. Would you save me? Paripahi mrityoho, save me from certain death. I'm encircled by fire. Now the student is so desperate and he says, I do not know. You know why is he writing this? Many times, many students who are very intelligent, who have read a few books, they go to a teacher and they don't want to learn what he knows. They want to go and test him, put him to a test, and they are doing guru shopping. So they ask him a few questions. So what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And the guru, what he will give? This boy or girl who has gone to that acharya, he's already full of a lot of ideas. I have read this book. Oh yes, yes, I have read this. The acharya listens to him and he said, okay, it's very good. So go ahead. He's saying no. If you have a genuine problem, if you don't have to go into any acharya. You have, honestly mention it to him. He needs to know that you have this problem. why you are not happy. You need to discuss that much more honestly. Then the guru, and he's saying, this is how this says the verse number 38, and then the teacher sort of starts counseling him, isn't it? Sloka dvena bhavadrisham satpurushanam asmasu karuna nivarjiv jaiva ityaha shanta iti. And these gurus are so, in an exalted state. So when you desperately say all that to him, he doesn't know how to hold himself back. He's full of love and compassion. Like Sri Ram, when Bibhishana comes, accepts him. He's his enemy's younger brother, makes no difference. He's come to him, he accepts him. He doesn't think twice, blesses him. Similarly, this guru is glorifying this. Shanta Mahanto Nivisanti Santo Vasanta Vallogahitam Charantaha Tirnaha Swayam Bhita Bhavanabam Yanam Ahetu Nanyan Apitarayantaha. Now these teachers are like this. They are Shantaha. That he has mentioned already. They are Brahmavittamaha. They are quiet. They are pacified. Why? They are fire. There is some fire, but without ooze. They are just living. That body is there, but there is no irritation inside. There is no restlessness. Shantaha. And Mahantaha. Mahanto. Mahanantu yasya. Mahanto. Because their goal of life is not having anything to do with the material reality. He's looking for that ultimate thing. And he's compassionate. He wants to help others, like Bodhisattva. He's already enlightened, but he's ready to sacrifice life to help others. And Nivasanti, Santo Nivasanti, is a pure soul and is living. How? He's saying Basantavat. Now during summer, you have a lot of heat. Then comes rain, a lot of rain. Then you have autumn, a little pleasant or humid. And then suddenly winter, chilly nights, a lot of problems. Then comes the best phase of everything, the spring. During spring, it fills you with happiness. Everything is full of blossoms and there's no snow. It's extremely pleasant. It's not very hot, not very cold. I'm talking about the Indian conditions, the temperate, not the temperate climates, but in our kind of conditions. So he's saying the Vasantaval Loka Hitam Charantaha. Like the spring fills everybody with happiness. Birds, animals, everybody is happy, celebrating life. Earth becomes so beautiful. This Acharya, with his compassion and love, he's always trying to benefit society, like the spring season. That's how I was mentioning that. And then there are Tirnaha, the Bhavavdhi that you are drowned in, we are drowned in, the Brahmavid, this Atmagyani, this person who is self-realized, enlightened teacher, he has crossed over that ocean. Why? He has removed his ignorance. This samsara is bhavavdhi or is banagni, is because of our ignorance. Once you know the truth, nothing bothers you. He knows the truth. He's not bothered by anything. So tinnaha, so he has crossed over that. Swayam, himself he is free, he is liberated. He has crossed over the ocean of life. He has overcome this whole forest fire. He has crossed over. He's gone beyond that. He's not affected by it. However, Bhitam Bhavanavam. So he is ready to help people who are scared of this Bhavanava, the Sansara Sindhu, Bhavavadhi. People are getting drowned. This is dark ignorance in which we get drowned. It's frightening because it removes our sense of discrimination. We confuse the wrong to be right. What else can be more miserable? So because they are free from this, however, they are not selfish. They are looking back. And then he's saying, Janan Anyan Api. Ahituna, without any cause. Other people who are getting drowned, they are free, but ahituna, there is nothing expectation. They're not expecting any benefit out of it. Anyan api tarayantah, but they keep helping others to cross over this ocean of misery and ignorance and suffering and pain and anxiety and restlessness called life. They're ready to help others. Of course, there are other people who turn it into business and have a lot of real estate and political influence. But we are not talking about them. We're talking about a good Vedanta Acharya. So that is the purpose. He only tells you the truth. He says, okay, can you help me? I have some problem with the business. He doesn't know what to do, what to tell, because this business is not about that. It's about meditating on the truth and then loosening our grip over life, doing things with a sense of surrender to the Lord, and do a bit of charity, whatever Bhagavan has advised in Bhagavad Gita. That's what all we can tell you. He cannot invent and tell you, okay, I'm putting my hand on your head and you're going to be a millionaire tomorrow. He cannot do that. But yes, I want to get out of this experience of misery and frustration and anxiety. He'll say, yeah, there is a way out. And we can discuss that. That is his purpose that he's mentioning. And then you know what kind of a person he is. He's discussing in the next verse, and we'll try to do that. Ayam swabhava swata eva yatpara samapanoda pravanam mahatmanam sudhang suresa swayamarka karkasha prabhabhitapta bhavati chitim kila. Is again a very, very beautiful couplet, beautiful sloka, and full of his literary skills. Was composed it. Ayam swabhavataha swataha eva. What is his swabhava? You don't have to make an effort. Somebody is swabhavataha very athletic. He doesn't do any extra efforts, and he excels in sports. Somebody by nature is more inclined towards numbers. He does excellent in mathematics. Somebody is more creative, writes excellent poetry. All of us have our own inclinations and orientations. Swabhavataha, what is this guru like? Swataha eva. Is not moved, not prerita, swataha. And mother asks the daughter, can you do this recipe? The daughter says, okay, mama, I'll do it. But she doesn't want to cook. And then the mother says, the son, can you just do this, take the car to the garage and do the servicing and come back? Okay, mama, I'll do it. But he's not interested. He's doing it because mama is asking him to do it. So here, the guru is not doing it because anyone is asking him, the government or his teacher or anyone. No, he doesn't have any responsibilities. But swataha eva, moved by his very nature, swabhavataha, what does he do? Yat parasrama apanoda pravana. Parasrama, somebody is struggling. It's like there's a particular animal who is sort of, is caught up in a ditch, he's trying to come out of it. And you're going by, and maybe a dog or cat or anything, you stop by and say, oh, what happened? Oh, my God. So you stretch your hand so that the dog can come out or the cat can come out, and generally they thank you. They look back at you. That is their way of thanking human beings or other animals. They're very truthful. So they thank you. That cat thanks you, or the dog thanks you. Sometimes they recognize and they'll come and they try to brush against you to express their love for you. They're very grateful. So you try to, but they do it by their very nature. It's not written in any book that they're following. It's very nature they have. And Mahatmanam, of these people, you know what kind of people they are? It says Swayam Arka Karkasa Prabhavitapta Bhavati Avati Shitin Kila Hu Sudhangsu Eva Esa. They are like the moonlight. Whole day you have a very, the scorching heat of the sun. Everybody is helpless. Extremely hot summer this year in India because of, I think they call it Al Nina or something, some climatic change, some climatic factor. El Nino, La Nina, I think it's La Nina. There is some temperature change in the oceanic currents, which heightens the impact of the summers. So we had a very hot summer here. Now you have a very hot summer, and then the night descends and the moon comes out, and then you go and sit by the Ganges. Of course, Delhi is very hot even in night, but then when the moon comes out, you feel a sense of relief, a sense of respite from the heat after maybe 10 o'clock. Similarly, this particular guru or acharya, they are Sudhanshu, that moonlight full of bliss, full of nectar. It's relief, it's soothing. Why? It's about truth. It's about that ethical life they're leading. So the very presence is like a mother's hug. And that acharya is saying that they come and they, like the moonlight, the moon rises in the sky after it's dark, and after a hot day, the moon fills the earth, which is loving rays. It's always associated with, that cool impact it has on the mind. It cools you out. That is the understanding. Now, this Acharya's words, his behavior, it's very soothing, especially if a person is very depressed and he has hell of a lot of problem, he goes to that fellow. He will not be able to do what a professional counselor does, but he expresses his love, he reassures him, and then tells him, okay, why don't you do some prayer and this and that, and why don't you study this and this and that. He sort of tries to format his system, introduce new elements, new programs in his system, so that this particular individual who is feeling a lot of stress is able to come out of it. Change may not be permanent, but he'll feel a sense of relief by contacting. In these verses, I personally think there is a lot of emphasis on sadhu sangha or satsanga. Satsanga is not meeting good people. Satsanga is also reading spiritual texts. So that connecting with the truth, either through some kind of a human relationship, ultimately aligned with the truth. That is satsanga, the sadhu sangha and all. That sort of relieves the mind, resuscitates the soul, recharges one's battery. Even when one hasn't taken sannyasa, is not going to study Viveka Chudamani. And that is what Bhagwan Bhashyakara is writing, if he has actually authored it. Because there's a bit of controversy. Some people believe that it is perhaps one of the great Shankaracharyas of Singiri, but perhaps not Adi Shankaracharya. Some Western scholars think that this language is too flowery for Shankaracharya to write. Anyway, there could be their personal opinion. So this is how we have sort of come to the end of the hour, and we'll meet again next week, and we'll move forward from the verse number 40th. And I was just thinking whether, because anyways, not too many people I can just put an end to the YouTube here. Yeah. So